If you are planning a bar mitzvah, you might be making one of these common mistakes, and you should avoid them. I am here with Ethan from Empower Event Group. Ethan, tell me a little bit about yourself first, your experience, so people know why they should listen to you.
Yeah, so I started Empower Event Group after my bar mitzvah. I was 13. I'm now fast forward to 27. So I've been in the industry for about 14 years. Saw my mitzvah and then went to work for a company before starting Empower at 15 years old. And, I feel like there's a lot of different events and people go to a lot of mitzvahs, and we wanted to change the way that they came off and just bring a new energy to the events that people go to. So the past 15 years, I've been trying to create some new magic, and this has been my life. So
What attracted you to getting into the space initially? And, when did you learn like, hey, this isn't going to be something that I'm just like working in, but I want this to be my business?
mhm. Right after my mitzvah, I always loved music, always loved DJing. And, I thought there was a great opportunity where I grew up being Jewish and, seeing a lot of these events. There was a great opportunity to get into it and try to change it up. And, during college, I just always had that entrepreneurial mindset and knew that this is what I wanted to do, to pursue and just keep growing it and, try to make an impact in the area. And now we do close to 100 mitzvahs a year.
Wow. That's awesome. And I mean, did you know like at, 13 and a half when you first joined that dance group that this is going to be it? Or was that like, what was the first thing that attracted you to that part of it? Take us back to 13-year-old Ethan.
13-year-old Ethan, I loved performing. I have ADHD, so I was bouncing off the walls as a young kid, couldn't sit still, dancing, singing. I was always messing around with electronics and, karaoke machines and speakers. I had dance lights in my basement. So I loved all of that, shiny, fancy, little toys as a young kid. And I was like, let me just keep trying to get a new thing every year.
So was the party always at Ethan's house?
It was always in my basement.
That makes sense.
Yep.
I figured.
My mom gave me this little room. I had like a closet and then like a 10 by 5 little room in the basement. And I just had CDs and radios and little lights and would have dance parties down there with my babysitters at the time.
It's amazing. That's got to be the best gig if you're like, babysitter and you're, hey, I'm just going to watch the kids play video games all night. Or then you go to Ethan's house and you're just like
jamming out.
Sorry, I'm learning how to do the crip walk at 7 o'clock at night. That's amazing. So episode today, we've got a lot of the experience. I'll just share briefly. We have a video production company, mostly corporate commercial and event videos. I started in the wedding and mitzvah space in terms of the filming that I did. And so I have a lot of that experience. So we're going to talk today a little bit about some of the common mistakes we've seen, and we'll hit them across the board. So it could be around planning. It could be around, choices that people are making in terms of the agenda for the event, or anything. So Ethan, when I ask you that question, it doesn't need to be the number one, but what's the first thing that comes up for you as like a common mistake?
I think number one is planning too early.
Oh, wow.
So, obviously entertainment from our standpoint, we book years out and it's great to lock in your vendors, but I've seen people start to plan everything, 2029 events, they're 3 years out. They got, the theme picked out, they got the colors, they're planning everything. And then 6 months to a year before the party, the daughter comes up to the mom and it's like, Mom, I want to change everything. I don't like anything that's been planned and we have to start over from scratch. So I think, locking in your vendors, video, DJ, entertainment, venue, and then sit back, wait, you have plenty of time. We have, we can really restart when we're about a year out and start to dive into all those other details.
I love that. I think that redoing that work has to be, and it's work. There's a lot that goes into this. Redoing that has to be an absolute nightmare. Do you have any, I think you've already described sort of generally, do you have any specific horror stories you can share that
Yeah, I mean, this one was 6 months before the party. Centerpieces were made, logo was designed. It was, I'm trying to remember exactly. I think it was like a neon disco theme initially, and then she was like, "I want a beach theme now." So they remade the center. We had to come up with new centerpieces with the decor company, new logos, and all of this costed the family, thousands of dollars
Wow.
because new swag had to be printed. They really had to change everything.
And I got to say, there's the one element of like, you plan too early, you're making all those changes. Did at any point were you like, no, just say no, don't do it. No, I'm kidding. And advise the parents to say no. No, but it's a great point. And even if you're in that situation where you're like, we're not redoing this, right? Which is kind of my joke I'm making right now. You now have your bar mitzvah compromising, right? On this really momentous day and the simcha. And so like I totally hear you. I think that not planning too early. I like that a lot. I would say from my end, and you sort of had mentioned the different vendors that you want to lock in. I find that there's a lot of folks have the priorities when I'm thinking from the video space, when you're thinking about capturing the event, video and photography. And a lot of folks have a priority. I've rarely met a family or couple that's like, I want both of these and they're both important. Usually it's like, I really want the photography. I've got my photographer picked out. Couldn't care less about.
They put video on the back.
And they put video on the back burner. I've also seen the other side, right? Where usually it's somebody who had a really great wedding video or saw somebody's really great video and went, I want that. And then they put photography on the back burner. And I think that two of the things that I think come out of that is one, understanding that these truly are two different principles and art forms, right? Yes, we're capturing content. A lot of times you're using the same cameras, right? There's these HD SLRs, which can work as a photography or capture video. But what I find is, they really are two different art forms and approaches. The directing and personality that you're going to want from your photographer, right, is something you really want to think about. And a lot of people don't. And then they end up hiring somebody just like that and then going, I didn't get along with them. And they're coaching me and advising me and trying to stage me. And it was just an awkward day.
I think with video, just to chime in real quick, you have to figure out what kind of video you want, so obviously you could have a full length where, you guys are going around and getting interviews, or I'm seeing more of like these fun recaps. Keep it a little bit shorter, but really dive into someone like yourself who can produce something super high energy, fun, and the quality, is really incredible, but it doesn't have to be a 40-minute, video.
It's funny you say that because on two fronts. One, on the high energy part, I think that what I'll usually say to folks is we're capturing the energy and essence of the day. And so like we've definitely done mitzvahs, we've done weddings where there's emotional speeches and everything is just sort of, I've had events where, maybe a parent had passed away or there was like a really emotional thing that was a theme throughout the night. You can't just drop in like LMFAO on top of that and go like, this was a bit.
Yep.
And then there are other parties that are super high energy. So it's really capturing the essence of it and telling the story in the way that's true for it. I think the second piece is on length and duration. What I find a lot is most people watching someone else's mitzvah or wedding aren't necessarily connecting with that. And they're looking at it more objectively from the perspective of how it's edited, how it's shot, that sort of thing. When it's your event though, a lot of times I get this where, hey, all I want is a 2-minute, 3-minute recap. I don't need anything more than that. And then they get that video and the first thing they say is,
not enough.
What else do you got? Yeah. And how do we get a longer video? And so, and more. And so I think that I totally agree with you. I think that the utility of the shorter video, that's what you're going to use. That's what you're going to watch on a regular basis, which you're going to share on social media. But that longer video, or at least having your videographer understand how to capture the full event in that way, so that if you turn around and go, you know what, that blessing from my, the bracha from my grandfather, I want that full piece. They've got it and they have it in a way that you could actually enjoy it later. That's definitely a great note.
I will say too, and unfortunately you never know nowadays, obviously, who's still going to be with us after some of these events and things like that. So from a video perspective, it's great to capture, those relatives, those grandparents and things like that. So you can look back at those memories. Unfortunately, I've worked with some clients who have lost people after, shortly after the mitzvahs. And I think having the videos of them dancing and capturing that just from, a video perspective is a lot different than getting that photo.
I totally agree. And I can say from personal experience, I lost my father at 25 and, he didn't get to attend my wedding. It was really important to get that footage of other relatives, right, that we're going to want to hold on to. And I remember one of the earlier weddings I did, it was actually a couple years later. They had only done a sizzle recap video. So they had it was like a 4-minute video. Great. They loved it. Everybody was happy. It was awesome. About 3-4 years later, his father passed away, and his wife actually called me and went, "Is there any chance you have the full speech that his dad gave at the wedding?" And we did, thankfully. And I mean, it was just, for me, it was really meaningful to be able to give that to them. I could really relate. But absolutely. And you don't want to come in from a doom and gloom perspective, right? But it's the reality of, you want to capture these moments and you don't know which ones are going to have the most meaning until later.
Yeah. And I've had clients reach out too. They're like, "Hey, any chance you can resend us the photo booth pictures again? We lost somebody and they're in the pictures and we want to see that." So
Yeah.
you just never know. This world is crazy and anything could happen. And I think having video with photo, the right video team to be able to capture that and put together a story to really relive the day is definitely huge.
Well, it goes back to, if it's a day worth reliving, right? And that's a lot of times the entertainment, and bringing that back to you, Ethan, and what you're doing. When you think about creating a great event, right? What are some of the things that jump out at you? And this episode's about common mistakes, right? So like, from an agenda and flow perspective, what are some things you see, when you're trying to plan out when dancing's happening and when dining's happening, those types of things. Splitting the kids up and the adults up for cocktail hour, right?
Oh, yeah.
What are the benefits, costs, pros, cons? What are some of the things that you see that are like givens that end up maybe feeling like they backfired a little bit?
So I think it depends on the kids that you're going to have at the party. Some of the kids now are going to so many mitzvahs and their attention spans are so short. So being able to time the party correctly is huge. Knowing and hiring a DJ entertainment company that knows how to keep the kids out of trouble from throwing food in the bathroom and breaking doors and running on the golf course at the golf club. You need to have an entertainment company that knows how to time it correctly. So it all starts with cocktail hour, like you said. The adults love cocktail hour. They love to be away from the kids, have their time. I was just talking to a family yesterday and we were talking about cocktail hour for about 15 minutes. And, this is going to be a cool, quiet space with background music. The adults can, have their own time, and the kids want their own time too. They don't want to be with the adults.
Right.
They want to go crazy with us and our team and have them separate. So we usually keep the, cocktail hours separate, kids and adults, and then bring everybody in to the party together. But when it comes to formalities, I've seen families try to cut things. They're like, "We don't want candle lighting. We don't want the hora." We've actually done mitzvahs without the hora, believe it or not.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I'm like, I feel like you have to do the hora.
I thought that was
the mitzvah. We got to get him up in the chair.
Yeah.
But they cut everything, and then it's just us trying to keep everybody on the dance floor the whole night.
Right.
And that's where a big challenge comes in. You got to have different breaks. These kids, they need breaks. They need to have structure. And, I think we really do a good job of working and educating the clients, what works best with the events now.
I love that. So I think there's this pull, right, to have a unique event and do things different. But if you go so far in the paint that you are removing some of those formalities, you're actually losing that. I would say on the video side, if you're going to go back and watch the video and there was no candlelighting, there was no speeches, there was just, you're essentially have a music video of a bunch of people dancing, and that's only going to take you so far, right? Seeing your great aunt do the Dougie is going to only hold on for so long.
And with weddings, I would say too, because we do a lot of weddings also. You can cut, I'm seeing a lot of people cutting the formalities. They're not doing the bouquet toss anymore. They're like, "We just want more of a cocktail vibe. We're going to have stations. It's not a sit down meal. We just want to rage and party," which is great. But maybe do a little bit from a wedding standpoint, a longer cocktail hour. Then we come in, we do the couple formalities, people eat, and then we party. So we're shortening up the dance set a little bit with a longer cocktail hour, but now people are ready to go. They had another drink at cocktail hour, and
Yeah.
they're walking in, they're like dancing,
They're ready to go.
getting to go,
Yeah.
ready to go.
Shooting them out of a cannon. I like that.
Yep.
I think that ties to another aspect, which is all about balance, right? We're going to go Mr. Miyagi here. Everything's about balance. But so I think that if you think about that, one of the points that I was going to make is of my common mistakes or things that I just don't love. This is less of a mistake, is the slideshow and stopping the whole event for a slideshow. And so the things, and I think that it ties into what we're talking about, because you want some of these formalities, you need to break up the event a little bit, right? If you just go like, welcome, press play and just play music and dance,
Game on.
it's really not going to work, right? So having those formalities is important. One of the formalities that we try to avoid is that slideshow. And a couple of things that are misconceptions around slideshows, I think. One is the upfront work. So you're going through and it's hours to just curate the right photos. And it's actually worse now, because back in the day you had to scan them, but you only had like 3 packs of photos. Now you have your iPhone has terabytes of photos.
Yeah, I have a family we're working with right now real quick, and she started the slideshow prep 7 months before. And she's like, I have 3 years to go. She's like, I really have to go through 13 years of photos.
It's impossible.
3 more years to go. I've gone through 10 years.
Oh my God.
And meanwhile, she's smart though, because while she's going through it, she's prepping for the next kid.
Right. So she's got, okay, so at least you're killing 2 birds, 1 stone. So that works. I would say the other part of that, so there's all that prep work and realizing that is a lot of work. The actual execution on creating the slideshow, there's a lot of tools now that can automate that. It's a lot easier to do than it used to be in terms of the video editing. But then there's, where does it play, right? And so to me, I think that if you're going to stop the event, and I want to get your thoughts on this, and maybe you disagree, but I feel like if you're stopping the event for a 4 to 6 minute slideshow, which is really just like music and photos, I find that kind of stifles the energy. I've suggested to people, one, if you do a longer slideshow, ironically, just be less concerned with the photos that you're selecting, right? So it's a little longer piece, and just have it as a looping decoration during cocktail hour. So it's a conversation piece. You get that moment and that energy of like, you get to see all the cute photos, but it's not stopping the party. What are your thoughts around that?
I think it could go both ways. We've done some amazing events where we've cut it, but I would say you have to keep some of the other stops throughout the night.
Yep.
You can't have just a scrolling montage and nothing else going on, because then we're going to have that problem again where we're trying to keep everybody engaged for 3+ hours with no stoppage. I also would say the montage, there could be some points, nowadays with TikTok and the kids are making so many funny videos, there's opportunities to embarrass your kid and get everybody laughing in front of everybody. So from that standpoint, I do like having the montage as a stopping point, because you can have those videos that people can watch and listen with audio.
Okay.
But you can't have with a scrolling thing.
So you would
throughout the night.
So doing something, because we've actually done some pretty wild pre-mitzvah videos. I showed you some of them before, where we did, this kid was really big into selling sneakers, and we reselling sneakers, right? And we created The Wolf of Richborough, and it was based off The Wolf of Wall Street, and we literally parodied this film with this 13-year-old. It was really funny. We've done one was Bubble Girl, where she was a gymnast and she'd broken multiple bones, and so her mom wrapped her in bubble. The whole movie, it was a little movie, right? And it played before the event. And so these are really like kind of these fun creative pieces. But again, they were usually used like as part of the intro. So you've got cocktail hours over, the DJ's getting everybody hyped. You play this short video, and then boom, our bat mitzvah comes out.
I love different things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what is going to make your party stand out from the other ones. People go to many mitzvahs, they go to a lot of parties, but when you really dive deep, and I know you're really great at storytelling and figuring out, how to pull, from what these people are, their emotions, and really what they're into, that is what's going to make your party different than the next.
Yeah, totally. And when it fits and it actually makes sense and it fits within a theme, I think that it's killer and super memorable. To that point, we talked about having some stoppages, but like, do you have techniques, tools that maybe differentiate, et cetera? How do you keep the energy going? And is it reading the room? Is it flow? Is it, do you just put on, Black Eyed Peas and that one's going to crush? I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I know we're all done with that. But like, what do you got that, what are some of the I don't want to give away all the secret sauce, but what are we doing to keep the energy going?
So I would say, again, going back with the kids and their attention span being much shorter nowadays, music is number one. I think, quicker mixing from a DJ standpoint.
Yeah.
So there's some entertainment companies that really don't, I say, put a lot of emphasis on the DJ. It's more of the emphasis on the MC.
Mm-hmm.
But the DJ is just as important as the MC. We're not here anymore just to play a set playlist, play the same songs, Raise Your Glass and I Got a Feeling, Black Eyed Peas, like you said. I think,
30 years going strong, I feel like.
Yep. I think quicker mixing.
Yep.
And from a DJ standpoint, having someone really talented that can read the crowd and know when to get in and out of songs will keep the kids wanting more.
Are you on a set playlist? Like, it's like a baseball team, you know exactly what's going to happen,
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Every event we do is different. We curate playlists with our clients. There's obviously a lot of those bangers, I call them.
Yep.
Party in the USA, the ones that everyone knows the words to.
Sure.
But there's also a lot of new music and remixes and ways that we can incorporate it. And people don't necessarily know the songs, but the energy is really high.
Yep.
And it just brings a whole nother, element to the events. And when that song comes on, sometimes we're throwing balloons up in the air. We have neon black lights that are coming on, and it's just a wow factor that people haven't seen before.
So tell me, I know we're just for timing purposes, we're just coming off the Eagles getting knocked out of the playoffs in the first round. RIP to the season. But I wanted to ask you, I think this could be a cool thing to think about, because it sounds like it's not this formula where, you pre-plan the songs in advance and just hit play and it goes. Mm-hmm. So tell me about the different roles, from the MC to the DJ to the other folks, and how you guys are sort of communicating, feeling, because, right, if you think Party in the USA is about to come on and he drops on, DMX, I'm kidding. Don't drop DMX. Well, do, but not at this party. And then all the balloons come down, like that's not gonna, that's not gonna work. What's that look like, feel like? Who are the roles and how are you guys working together?
Mm-hmm. So at least on our events here at Empower, we have a full team meeting about an hour before the start of the party. And everybody needs to know what's going on, from the DJ, the MC, the dancers. And, it's not just a set formula. We don't just show up and just, it's another mitzvah. This is what we're going to do again, same thing. So we try to make every event different. And me and the DJ, the MC and the DJ, I MC a lot of the events. And then we'll have a DJ there. We're communicating the entire time. So I'm looking at him. He's reading my face. I might tell him to lower the music a little bit if it's too loud. Giving him some ideas on the next song. Kids are coming up to me, play this. I'll give them a little, hey, give me a little wobble next, something like that. But we're communicating the entire time, and I know what's coming next, and that helps me as the MC hype people up. And I might be on the mic like, you better sing this next one, and then boom, a song comes on that everybody knows.
Right.
So it's all timed. And I think having a team that you work well with, the dancers, we don't just work with people, random dancers that I guess don't do this every weekend. This is our team that works exclusively with us, and we work so well together that we're just on a synergy.
That's awesome. I love that. What do I do if my kid's super shy, doesn't want to dance? What are you guys doing to try to... Are we trying to bring him on the dance floor? Are we forcing that? Are we finding a way around it? What does that look like? Because I know, and not to cut you out, but I know from the wedding space, I always say this to people: if the couple doesn't dance, generally there's going to be, I don't know what the percentage fall off is, but there's a huge percentage fall off of other people that won't dance.
Yep.
If you're out there on the floor, everyone's out there on the floor with you. So
yeah, I actually did a wedding this past weekend, and I saw that a couple times. The bride she was in the back. Talking to somebody, and then there were 3 other people with her. And I'm like, we need you back on the dance floor. So when they're there, and same with the mitzvah kid, it definitely helps having everybody there. But we're not going to force anybody to dance.
Right.
If your son or daughter doesn't want to dance, that's fine. There's other ways that we can interact, whether that's now through technology and doing like an on trivia game where people are using their phones up on the screens.
Oh, cool.
Whether that's, other challenges, minute to win it games we've done.
Oh, that's great.
There's other ways, and even the adults. If it's maybe a smaller kid count, and you have a lot of adults there, and your son doesn't love to dance, maybe having a couple interactives in the room, he can play that. He's still having an awesome time, and then we can do something with the adults as well.
Sure.
So every party's different. We're not going to force you to dance. And we just did an event, actually. The kid was super into gaming. We did a couple TV screens. We had Mario Kart up on the screen and Super Smash Bros. And he was hanging out on the couches playing video games, and he had the time of his life.
That's awesome.
So, there's all different ways to do it.
I love that flexibility, because I know it's got to be if you're trying to get, in the wedding example, you're trying to get everybody on the dance floor, and the bride and groom are on polar opposite sides of the room, and it's a great point, right? They're a magnet for key people that are with them. So if you're the bride or groom and you're not on the dance floor, you also have just pulled several people off the dance floor with you. And so if you're on opposite sides, now that could be 6, 10 people.
Yep.
And you can see how that percentage starts to add up, right?
From a video perspective,
yeah.
Obviously you're following around the guest of honor.
Yes.
Because you want to capture them, and you want to create a video that shows them. How does that affect you? If they're in the back of the room and they're not, obviously you can get a lot of video of their friends and their family, but then they're not in the video.
It's really tough. And to be honest, we've had that situation before, and we always try to get a VIP list before the event. Hey, who are the people that need to be in the video? And a lot of times we focus on, who are the people that might not be on the dance floor as much? It might be some of your older relatives. It might be, grandparents, et cetera, that are going to be on the dance floor for a short time. And then they're not going to appear in the video if all we're filming is the dance floor. So we try to take that time. Now, it's also storytelling. So unlike a photo where I can get that picture of a great hero shot of somebody sitting in a chair and it still works. Mm-hmm. For video, if I have a really hyped moment, right, dance montage, I can't just cut to Grandpa Joe sitting on the chair, right, just like eating a sandwich. Like it doesn't work. So you have to also think storytelling wise when to insert that footage where it's going to be relevant, but getting it. And we've had situations, unfortunately, where, there's multiple siblings, and some of the siblings are just out at the video game station or out in another spot and get crowded by other people, and they don't have as big of a presence in the video. And we instruct our teams to, do their best to find that. But absolutely, like, I think that from a setting expectation perspective, those are the conversations we try to have up front is, hey, if you have 3 kids and 2 of them are never on the dance floor, right, that's going to be more of a struggle to get them featured. That it makes it tougher, right? And so I imagine the same is for you when you're trying to keep the energy up. If you've got a distracting venue, right? I know we were at an event and you were actually DJing. I was a guest. That was downtown at Spin, and it's awesome space, really cool. But if half the kids are playing ping pong, I could see it's a challenge to keep the dance floor engaged.
Yeah, I just had a call yesterday as well with another family, and they're looking at Spin, and she's like, super cool space. We love working there. Yeah, it's an awesome space, but she's not into ping pong. So I was like, just curious, why are you having it at a ping pong spot?
Right.
Because it just is going to add a little bit more distraction to the event. But there's ways to shut it down and kind of, with the timeline, make it work.
Right. I think it's all about, and, we actually were talking off camera if we were going to do an expectation setting video. And I think that this is a good moment to talk about just that topic of like, I think where I see the best feelings after an event, when you're getting your video, you had the experience, and where people were disappointed, a lot of times it's in this intersection of expectations that you had something in your head that you visualized, and the professionals that you were leaning on up front, planning with, working with, coordinating with, just didn't warn you, just didn't give you a heads up. Like, I think you can have an amazing event at Spin if you know that the ping pong is going to obviously pull some bodies off the dance floor, and you're okay with that. You're going to have an amazing event.
Definitely.
If you thought that you were going to get 3 hours of just like, sweaty dancing and just everybody crazy, and then you didn't, you're going to be disappointed. And that's not Spin's fault. That's not anybody's. That's just expectations, right?
Definitely.
And being realistic.
I think too, there's a lot of emotions that go into these events. And, some of the families need to just, take a deep breath and rely on the professionals, like you said, to guide them on, exactly what you're looking for and let us do our job to create that.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
Sometimes people will, continue to add all of their input to the professionals and try to create the event their way, but it's not always the best way. It's not going to always work out.
I think it needs to be collaborative. You gotta, our job is to listen
Mm-hmm.
and then create the event based on what we heard, right? And so I think that if you try to jump over that step and go, here's what I want you to do, it can work. It just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always. I want to touch on one other overall topic, and we'll sort of end on this, but I think like this whole thing is about misconceptions, right? And things that people don't think of and that sort of thing. So I'm going to give a couple, and then I want, if you can come up with some too,
Mm-hmm.
Ethan. Some of the things that people don't think about, right, when they're planning events. So from our end, what we've seen is we've been to events where they have a cocktail hour in one room,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have the main space, right? And they did some nice uplighting. They've got great sound in the main space. And then they just no one decided, are we going to have a speaker that's going to pipe in music into the other room?
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to decorate the other room with some uplighting? And it just didn't get thought of, right?
Yeah.
From our end on the video side, we've seen that where we've seen ceremonies that were outdoor ceremonies and there's no mic.
Oh my
And you can't, the guests can't hear. And so, or in some of the better situations, we've caught it because we always ask that question, because on our end, we're relying on you guys. So we will plug into your equipment
Yep.
to get clean audio, and then we're going to match that to the video. So if everyone's giving a speech, et cetera, it sounds good. And we put in backups and redundancies in case there's any issues. But I've run into the situation where we were talking to a bride and groom, for example, not as much on the mitzvah side, but they're like, yeah, we're doing the ceremony outdoors and then we're bringing it in. I'm like, cool. Are you going to have speakers, mics? Is there going to be any music outside? And they're like, oh, we didn't think about that. And now you've got this extra budget cost a month out that you just didn't consider.
And no one could hear what's going on.
Right.
And from a video standpoint, you can't necessarily, unless, now you're adding the mics.
Right. We always mic whoever we can, especially on the ceremony. In mitzvahs, a lot of times we're not allowed to film the ceremony because of
Mm-hmm.
the rules
Right.
around the synagogue. But yeah, so what are some of so that's from our end, right? Like, make sure to double check with your DJ, make sure to double check with your video team. What are the sound requirements going to be? Where is there going to be sound? If they're different rooms, you need to consider that. And also the decorations and uplighting. From your perspective, what are some of the things that are, and sometimes it won't be in your sphere, right? Like in my case, it's something that they didn't discuss with their DJ, right?
Entertainment. Yep.
And entertainment. What are some things that like you see that are outside of your purview necessarily, but you're like, man, they really should have thought of that?
Mm-hmm. I think you need to figure out, do you want to work your own event? So I've seen some families, and I obviously understand budgets. Everyone has a different budget and people can afford certain things. But at the end of the day, there are ways to still stick to a budget and let the professionals handle it. And, some families, when it comes to showing the montage, will try to set up their own projector screen.
Yeah.
And we actually did a mitzvah once where the dad was setting up the projector screen and the projector, and he had it on a stool.
I can see where the
Kid comes over, knocks over the stool, the projector drops onto the ground and breaks into a million pieces. Projector's smashed. Now we can't show the montage. And if he had just hired us with, for a little bit extra, we would have had our screens, everything would have been tested and secured.
Yeah.
So I think people, obviously, again, everyone's in a different stage of life, what they can afford, but, maybe they shouldn't have shown a montage at that one. So figure out if you want to work the event. I've also seen people cleaning up at the end of the parties. They're tired. They have 10 camp kids that are ready to go back to their house. They have a trash bag. They have to clean up the whole venue because they didn't hire somebody to help with that. So
I love that idea. Do you want to work your own event? I imagine even on the event planning side, right? Like the having somebody there that day that, do you feel like that's necessary to have a planner on site that's helping coordinate all the pieces? And I know even dating back eons ago to my wedding, we kind of went and we had the event venue was like, we'll have a planner for you that's just like kind of baked in, and they didn't. It's not the same as having a real planner. And so I remember we were like, hey, how come the left hand's not talking to the right hand? There's got to be somebody doing that. Yeah.
And the venue has their coordinator, but the venue's coordinator is worrying about the venue.
Right.
They're not worrying about you. I mean, they are worrying about you at the end of the day. They're worrying about you as the client to make sure all the food service, and everything.
Responsibility.
Right. But everything else, now there's a lot of different elements that go into these events with games and swag and the DJ and photo booth experiences and, cocktail hour and musicians. And there's so many moving parts now that you need that party planner and that coordinator to make sure that everybody's working together.
Right. You need to connect those dots.
It's worth it. It's worth it. Yeah.
And so I love that idea of not working your own event. I mean, on the AV side, just thinking about the time, the time and mental energy ahead of time to get the projector, make sure you have the right cords, remember to bring it. It's in the car. Now you're dragging it into the venue. I mean,
it never works.
It's really funny because, there's so many times where our team is filming an event, working an event, and then I might be there as a guest. And my wife hates going to those events with me because I'm not a guest, right? Even if I'm seated, I'm still
We're looking at everything.
I'm looking at everything. I'm checking it. I'm double checking. I got to check in with the team. I got to check in with the client. And even if, and that's like light work, right? Like I've gotten better about not grabbing a camera and doing anything with it. But and I think about that as a professional that knows my team can handle it. If I'm now that, solo dad that's coming out with his stool and his projector, one, everything can go wrong. But two, even if everything went right, it's still all that headache of you're now, it's kind of like when you're having the barbecue. Now, some guys want to do this and just be at the grill the whole time. But like if you're having the barbecue and you're grilling, you're not out with everybody. Right. And so I think that's the analogy. And you don't want to be manning the grill at your own mitzvah.
I do have an interesting topic that I want to. No, you're right.
I don't know how I feel about that quote. It's like a t-shirt. Don't man the grill at your mitzvah. That's
so as somebody like yourself who's going to be planning a mitzvah.
Yeah.
Coming up. This is curious from a husband and a dad perspective. How involved do you want to be involved in the process? Because a lot of times I'm seeing, the wives, the mothers are really taking the reins when it comes to planning, and the dads are just signing the checks.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're like, we want it to be a good party. We want you, to have all the kids engaged, get everybody up dancing. But how, some husbands are really involved, but, a lot are really not. I'm curious from your standpoint, how you think, going into this process.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I wonder if that's across the spectrum, right? Like if for those families that, do a renovation, plan the vacation, whatever, like it's all kind of your dynamic. Do you do that together? Or do you do that separately? I think for us personally, I would say it's like a 30-70, maybe 40-60 split. If Alexis isn't here to defend herself and say that it's like a 10-90, but like, I think I'm involved, but a lot of times she'll want to take point on those things. Like if she has a vision for something, et cetera. And then it's more like, I'll get involved in more of those technical details and that part of it. Obviously in the unique case of our son's upcoming bar mitzvah, like we just, there's a lot of stuff that I know in terms of the space, but, a great example, Alexis was at an event with you, loved what she saw, and was just like, that's who we want to move forward with. And that was an easy decision. Right. So I think that for me, in that environment, like in other environments, I might be like, I want to get, I want to interview some more people. I want to check, right? And that wasn't the case. So I think that I'll flip the question back to you to say, what do you prefer when you're sort of working with a couple that's like 50-50 in it? Because I have some thoughts too on what I like about it. And what I don't like about it. What do you prefer when you have a single point of contact or two?
Yeah, I feel like I've seen it clash, where one has one opinion and one wants something else completely different.
And then you're just Homer Simpsoning into the bush, just there in the middle of that conversation.
But I do feel like it is good to get everybody involved, as well with some things. Like music, I definitely want to get the parents involved. We like to get the adults up. This isn't just you might be just having a kids party with just kids, but most of the time we have kids and adults.
Yep.
So, Dad, tell me about the 90s music you love to listen to, that 90s hip hop, and all your requests. We'll make sure that we play that.
We did not forget about Dre, by the way. No one's forgot about him.
But yeah, I think if there's balance, the husband probably doesn't care about the color of balloons that are going to be hanging in the ceiling, but when it comes to the music and the overall timeline and the formalities, there's definitely ways to get everybody involved. So, some of these planning starts so far out, and there's different times when I think we bring the right people in to talk about certain elements.
I love that. And again, reminder to your first point, which is like, don't plan too far in advance on some of these details and get locked into something that might change. Yeah, you a lot of times you're locking something in 2 years out, and you have a human being that's going to evolve into a different person by the time they're right. Everything's changing. And so I would say that from a more like functional, operational business perspective, it's easier to have one point of contact, right? What you really want to avoid is the Monday morning quarterback, right? And this is across the board. Most 99% of the production that we do is corporate work, right? So when we're working with a client and we have this conversation multiple times through the process up front, we're doing a commercial, brand film, training videos, et cetera. It's like, who's our main point of contact? Who's the final decision maker on this? And when's the right time to bring them in? And so, I think that what you don't want to have is whether it's the bar mitzvah changing their mind, or somebody else coming and going, I can't believe the entire set list is, swing songs. Like, what we got to change.
Yeah, this is what they wanted.
This right.
We got to give it to
This
them.
is what your wife said, She just wanted this to only be Red Hot Chili Peppers the whole
time. Or, Uncle Alan from the corner comes over and is like, you got to play this song, and it just doesn't match everything that we planned for the past year.
Right.
So.
How do you handle those request moments? Because you mentioned it earlier.
Oh, I just say yes to everybody.
Okay.
Oh, you want to hear this crazy country? Yeah, we got you, no problem. And then we just don't play it. We just don't play it.
Uncle Alan, they're not playing that song. I just want you to know.
Or, they come up, they're like, I really love Dave Matthews Band. Can you play this? I'm like, I love Dave Matthews Band too. And then I just walk away.
Right. Drop in Satellite in the middle of just like a dance montage. That's a great idea. That's fun. So is there any flexibility? Do you usually like talk to the couple, to the family and go like, hey, what do you want? Because I know like I think said no requests, and then Alexis didn't want any line dancing at any of those. And I was like,
with weddings,
you need to have. I think we had the wobble. It might have been. I can't remember. Or maybe
was that even
shuffle.
I don't know if that was a thing back.
Was it not back then? It was
back
probably
then.
not. I think I made it up. I'm trying to pretend I'm younger than I am. It was Cupid Shuffle, and that it was a great moment in the party. Like I kind of had to. I said like I did what you did except earlier. I was like, fine, babe, we won't have any of those. And then I went to the DJ like, just give me one, and it worked out.
You're the groom. It's okay.
Yeah, right. It wasn't like I'm Uncle Alan or whatever. What do you do? Yeah, do you usually have like a hard fast rule for you? Do some of the families you work with go, yeah, we're fine with requests, we're not fine with requests? Where do you,
yeah, I definitely ask. Do you want your guests to be allowed to make requests? And the way they came up.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they say, it's okay. And I'll be like, obviously if it works. So I'll let people make requests. And then if it's a good song and I think, it'll work, I'll tell the DJ,
okay,
put this on. But sometimes it's some crazy, especially with the kids now. I mean, they're play the 6-7 song or something. I'm like, no, we're not playing that. Please, no.
Yeah. That's gotta be, it's tough when you're making that call on the fly. Have you ever had it, where you made a mistake, where you went sideways and you played that, you're playing Johnny Cash in the middle of like it because on a request and it just kills the vibe?
What I would say, it gets difficult because sometimes there's songs that are sung by like 4 of this different artists, the same song.
Right.
And that's where you got to be really careful. And I've done it because, you need to make sure you have the right artist. There might be like a Bruno Mars version, a Whitney Houston version, and that's where we've run into a couple scenarios in the past. But for the most part, yeah, we really check everything beforehand.
Right. But the nice thing is, if you're working with your DJs, you're describing, like, you're always going to have the opportunity to hear that this isn't right, feel the vibe in the room, and make the adjustment. And, you've got maybe 30 seconds or a minute of something that didn't, and then you can always pull people back in.
Yeah, I've heard some horror stories. I had a friend that was a DJ in the past, and he was doing weddings back when you had to burn CDs. So they burned they burned a CD for when the bride and groom were walking down the aisle, and it was the 9/11, like one of the tracks, I guess, from YouTube or something they ripped at the time. And it was just like it was the audio, I think, of like 9/11. And it was
stop.
Yeah, they played it was supposed to be maybe the national anthem or something. I don't know. There was some like American song they were supposed to play, and it was the wrong audio, and the bride's walking down the aisle, and there's not much you can do at that point. The CD's playing, they
Right.
burned, and so I feel like,
Oh, it's a nightmare.
yeah, that was a horror story that I heard. Luckily, nothing, knock on wood,
Yeah.
has happened yet.
This glass
that.
table's not enough wood on it. I would say that the one thing that, and I tie this back, I dabbled in a little high school theater. And I'll say this to say, one of my favorite moments was, I believe it was my senior year, opening night. Somebody delivered the wrong line, which essentially in the play, there's 2 moments where this person comes out and is supposed to say this line. They delivered the wrong one, the second one, which the audience wouldn't have given a crap and wouldn't have known. But for us, knowing the play, it completely changes the trajectory of the play. And we're like rewriting in the back. And I had to go out on stage. And I remember it with my friend Emily, and we were on stage and we were improvising for like an extra 2 minutes while everyone was figuring it out backstage. And then they were going to come out and relieve us. That was one of my favorite moments in all of my time in performing or doing any of that stuff. And I think that one of the things that, yes, there are critical mistakes, like don't play the 9/11 song during walking down the aisle. But I think that there's also kind of seeing the future of this is going to be a funny story. And I think that there's some things that don't go right in an event and they really just kind of like ruin the memory of it, right? Or really taint the memory. But I think, and this comes back to expectation setting, my biggest thing is if you can go into it and say, and I say this a lot of times to our couples if we're doing a wedding and to the family if it's a bar mitzvah, once the night starts, all the planning, everything you did everything you could do to make it a great night. And now it's time to just enjoy it, good, bad, or otherwise. And all of those things are memories. And I think that if you can take that approach, that's my biggest piece of advice, is just take everything as a memory. And a lot of times those flubs, like what are the funniest things when you have like a little kid coming down the aisle that's supposed to be the flower girl and they like take a left turn and run into a field. Like those are amazing memories. It didn't go right, but not going right is what was so great about it. And so I think if you can have that mindset for, I would say 90% of the things, again, don't play the 9/11 song. It's probably going to go, you'll probably be happy with the event.
And I think people definitely need to understand, anything can happen.
Yeah.
I do have a couple crazy stories I'd love to share.
Yeah.
Because anything can happen at these events. And I know everybody wants their kid's party to be perfect, but we're all human. And anything can happen. Speaking of crazy stories, so we had a fire at a mitzvah. We were in the middle of a dance set, and we look over in the back of the room, and there is flowers and a vase on fire in the back of the room. And luckily, the catering staff ran over with buckets of water and threw water on this thing before it got too big. But we literally had flames probably 3-4 feet in the air.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a serious situation.
So that was wild.
And that's going to put a pause in the night, let's say. And then how did you pick up? Or did you play like a Pitbull song? You play Fireball right after that?
No, we played Sean Kingston, Fire Burning.
Okay.
Somebody call 911. But no, fire alarm went off. Everybody had to get out.
Yeah.
And luckily it took about like 30 minutes
to reset and get back
into it. But yeah, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That was a first for me. And then the other one, I will say outdoor events are definitely challenging.
Sure.
Some people want to do it in their backyard. We're going up to Connecticut soon for a mitzvah. And they're doing a big tent in the backyard, which is going to be cool. But there's a lot of more logistics with that. And there was a rainy night and a car drove into a telephone pole and power went out to the entire neighborhood. And for this specific one, I mean, usually we would have a generator. They had really great power at this property, so we didn't bring a generator.
Oh, man. And
there was no power.
We had that actually happen. This has got to be maybe 12 years ago now. We were shooting at a vineyard and they lost all power to the vineyard. I mean, there was nothing. And so actually the dancing footage montage is some of the coolest footage we've ever gotten. So the speeches and all the toasts, we were using our video light on a battery to just literally so people could see the person speaking.
Yeah.
We were at a vineyard and there was no power. So all people were doing was drinking. They were making calls, trying to get a generator in. They get the generator in, and for the last hour of the party, pretty much all of the formalities were done. We just, everybody had eaten. Everybody is on more wine than anybody should be on. And the tent lights up. Somebody ended up slipping because it was a huge rainstorm. Even the tent, like underneath, the floor was flooding. So that's another thing to think about. You're going to have a floor on grass.
And somehow,
yeah,
some way, every time there's an outdoor party, it rains.
Yes.
It always
it's coming.
rains.
Just
you
be
gotta
ready.
prepare for it. Oh.
So this dance floor is flooded. A guest actually slipped and got hurt. There's an ambulance and police car out front, but this is the best part. So I remember I was actually shooting this. I'm in the tent and I had the shot of the bride who's just soaking wet, dancing, like her hair's all wet. She's dancing. And behind her, the lighting was like the police lights. And it just looked like it was just a gorgeous shot, right? And everybody was having the most amazing time.
Wow.
But the entire event got compressed down this 1 hour. And I think if you ask them, like in retrospect, they wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, probably they wish their family member hadn't slipped on the floor. But like other than that, that I've also seen, and this is actually a great tip. This turns into a great tip. Years ago, we were filming a wedding and the groom actually passed out at the altar.
Oh God.
It was a quick thing. Like he just kind of like got faint and they, splashed some water on his face, got him back up. But the reason for it was he locked his knees when he was standing for a long time. And my brother-in-law, who used to be in the military, explained that they teach you to kind of keep your knees bent a little bit if you're standing. Like, so if you're groomsman, bridesmaid, and you're going to be up there for 20 to 30 minutes, just keep a little bit of padding in your knees. Don't lock them out because it actually cuts off blood flow. And, you add in a couple drinks, some hot outdoor, vineyard air, and somebody passes out. So that's a big tip. Don't lock your knees for those long ceremonies where you're standing. You got anything else before we, any more crazy stories before we wrap this bad boy up?
I mean, really the last one, I felt really bad for this couple. It was a wedding and it was at a venue, but the fire alarm went off about 10 minutes after we opened the doors in the main reception, and the venue couldn't get it off for an hour. So I'm DJing, we're still trying to do everything. We're trying to do dances, but in the back, you just hear, and this fire alarm is just going off for an entire hour of the party.
That is a nightmare.
And, people are leaving, they're going outside, they're holding their ears, it's super loud. And, there was nothing we could do. We were thinking at one point about moving the DJ setup outside and just keeping the party going, but it was not good.
That is a real bummer.
Bad.
And that sound is unavoidable, and it's just like you can't ignore it. I'll leave with one that was an event that we were shooting. It was an event that I was attending. And I'll just throw this in. And this goes back to the whole idea of like really for couples that are, if you're a bride and groom and you don't dance, what can happen. And so it was this really nice wedding up in, I can never remember if it's Saratoga or Sarasota, whichever one's up north. It was a winter wedding, and bride and groom were not dancers, and they just weren't. And the videographer and photographer were at the point where, and this goes back to what are we capturing? They left by like 9:30 at this party because they were just like everyone just standing around, and we've gotten everybody, like we have a picture and a video of everybody, but it was essentially looked like a networking event. And video photo leave. And I don't know how this happened, but I was involved, and there was me and maybe like two other guys who I didn't know. Like it was my wife's friends from college. So like I didn't know these people. And somehow the DJ, bless his heart, was trying everything. I mean, just like, I'll take requests. I'll play whatever song you want. Just please, give me
that one song that everybody wants from college, that everybody knows.
And
get everybody out here.
Just crickets. And he just like gave up and put on Thriller. And I remember like, I looked at some random person from across the room, and by the end of it, the entire room was doing the Thriller line dance. And this whole thing kicked off. Everyone was dancing, having a great time. Not a single photo or video of any of it because they'd send them home. So, just wait that little bit extra longer, guys. Don't go home photo video.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Some people do cut the videographer and the photo like an hour before, but I think that's the best, the ending part of the party is the best part to capture.
Yeah.
The goodbye, everybody who's still there, closing out the party. If it's good video, good quality video, you want to get that.
I love that. That's another great piece of advice. So we got a lot of tips in here. So these are some of the common mistakes that folks might be making when they're planning their next bar or bat mitzvah, or even wedding. We hit some weddings in there too.
Hit some weddings.
And of course, Ethan, thanks so much for being here on Beyond the
John,
Frame.
appreciate you, man.